tell you how that felt. Swift kick from a man can turn into a bad spell. Kick-ass movies and Len really tend to add well. North, Mr. North Star. Pop the judo, chop you right out your car. Kush to the haze, Mr. Always raise the bar. He strives to be great and exceeds it by far. So sit back, relax, we getting dirty like a mud pit. Talking kickboxer and blood fist. If we catch you dozing off, then you gotta go. What you know about Taekwondo? We're here to kick ass.
What's good, y'all? Kush Hayes here, coming to you episode 3 of the Kick-Ass Movie Podcast with me, the director, Len Kabazinski. How you doing today, my man?
I am doing great, Kush. How are you? Thank you once again for having me on here. This series I'm really excited about. It's a lot of films I kind of grew up with. So, maybe I drop some knowledge on you and tell you to see some stuff maybe, you haven't seen before kind of thing.
That's what I want, my man. Old Iron Lung here is doing fantastic. As we record this, I'm celebrating 2,500 days without a cigarette.
That's right. Clap,
still miss him, but we're doing it. It's going on 7 years now. Len, I'm more excited than anything. We saw The Perfect Weapon, 1991, Jeff Speakman.
Oh, yeah.
Directed by Mark DeSalle. He's a producer of the original Kickboxer. Yeah. He produced the original Bloodsport. He's only directed Kickboxer 1 and this. Written by David C. Wilson. This is a guy who's got a very limited resume, but he's a very interesting resume. This was his first film out the gate. And the next one would be like another 19 years, and that'd be Supernova. But then it's finally until 2015 where he does the most recent Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. I found that as an interesting note. But The Perfect Weapon, Jeff Speakman, this is his very first movie. And Jeff is a badass. And this is a fantastic film, dude. This is 84 glorious minutes. I usually say there's not an ounce of fat missing from this, but I think they might have actually cut just a little too much. We'll get into that in a minute here. Len, why did you pick this movie for us? And thank you for doing so.
Well, with The Perfect Weapon, I think there's a lot of uniqueness going on in it.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see, and you can relate this to somebody like, he's kind of a joke now when I'm talking about Steven Seagal, but back in the day, people got to look at what Combat Aikido looks like on cinema when he did Above the Law and stuff like that. And he came out of nowhere. His first movie obviously was a theatrical release. You got Henry Silva as the bad guy in Above the Law, all that stuff. He's hitting the ground running kind of thing. Jeff Speakman, pretty darn similar. He did one real super low budget movie that I don't even know got a real big release. I can't think of the name of it. On the Road or something like that. But anyways, nobody remembers it. But so really, The Perfect Weapon, he hit the ground running as well in a major studio release, surrounded by good actors like Mako and stuff like that. So I thought there were some parallels there, but also in the martial arts. This was our first chance to get a look at what's called Kempo Karate that he does, and his master, Ed Park, who I believe died before it came out. So, Ed Parker was like the teacher of Kempo Karate to the stars. I mean, Elvis Presley studied under him, that kind of stuff. It's much like, Bruce Lee, when you had all those people under him that came out and did some cinema stuff. So he was kind of Ed Parker's right-hand man, and ended up taking over, I believe, the Worldwide Kempo Federation or something like that. Jeff Speakman, I still think, runs to this day. But this was his opportunity, and he got a slick-looking film that is an action film. I really feel it's one of the best of the whole 90s, and it was released in, 91? Yeah, you can put up some karate movies later, from either Van Damme or whoever you want to name it. You know what? I think The Perfect Weapon's better than a lot of that stuff. Like you said, it's a fast watch. I think the fight scenes are unique. That's probably the major reason I picked something like this. I think there's more than just fights being unique that's in this one. I think Jeff Speakman had an odd career kind of thing, where really this was his only, I believe, theatrical release. He went on to do some movies that really weren't that bad. I think his canon was dying out. He might have did one for them. I want to say it was called The Expert or one of those films like that. He did, I believe it was for canon, much like The Hitman with Chuck Norris near the end there. His canon was kind of dying off there. Okay. But I'm excited to get into it. I think Speakman, had real charisma, but we'll get to that. I picked it because of unique fight scenes, a star that came out of really nowhere. And I think that makes for an interesting watch.
Like you said, man, he was Ed Parker's right-hand man. And because of that, he definitely wanted to have like a position in film. He knew he wasn't an actor, but he knew he could be one or he could be trained. Instead of just going to every audition and learning that way, he got his foot in the door by being a script reader. So he would just hang out with the agents. He would get to hear in the conversation what it is exactly what they're looking for. And then he polished all his skills around that. So when it finally came time to do something like The Perfect Weapon, he just crushed it. Jeff Speakman also got Paramount to give him full control over all the fight scenes as far as they were edited.
That's a pretty unique thing, actually, because when you bring in a stunt coordinator and all that kind of stuff, I think something that people might not realize, and these don't always go hand in hand, is that a stunt coordinator is not your fight choreographer. A lot of times those are two different things. As a stunt coordinator, you might be doing high falls or doing, back in the day, you did the fire suit stuff, all that kind of stuff. A fight choreographer is something different. They're not doing the high falls and all those kinds of stunts, car chase stunts, all those things. That's your stunt coordinator. Fight choreographer is what you would expect it to be, and he choreographs fights. So Jeff getting total control of the fights, being right out of the gate, his first real big movie. I'm not surprised, and I'm glad they let him do it, because nobody's going to know Kempo karate better than him.
That's what's up. There's the infamous gym scene where it's him against 3 guys.
Yeah, it's awesome.
How long do you think they worked on that, Len?
My guess, I'm going to say they worked on it a few days, like 3 days. I'll say 3 days.
They got to work on that for 2 full weeks.
Wow. Nice. Yeah. And I remember some of the actors in there are seen in other low budget films. Actor James Liu is one of those guys. He does a lot of fight stunts and stuff throughout his career, but also did a lot of acting, appeared in, I believe it was one of the Cage films with Lou Ferrigno. I think he's in, I don't know. Okay. He's in a ton of stuff.
I recognize the haircut. Let's go to the cast here. We got Mako.
Yeah.
We got James Hong.
Oh yeah, still alive.
Bosco, who would be in like one of the biggest movies of the year with Steven Spielberg's Hook. He plays Rufio in that.
Yeah.
And then
we got the late John Dye, I believe, is in it. Ended up killing himself, I believe. Tragic story years later. But I believe he plays his younger brother in the film.
That's right. Yep. I'd seen John Dye in a couple movies prior to this, and I had always thought growing up, because I'm like 7, 8, 9 when this is happening, that he was actually James Spader.
I could see that. I can see that.
Let's see.
He was a good actor too. Gone too soon.
Gone too soon for sure. I'm a little bummed now. Let's bring it back up. Hiroyuki Tagawa, who also did Showdown in Little Tokyo the same year. I'm positive he just walked across the street wearing the same suit. And this is a fantastic cast, man. It's a lot of fun. For some reason, Mariska Hargitay is fifth billed. She's Law and Order SVU. Like she's the big star on that show.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure she went into a television career. I wasn't sure what it was, but you just answered that question.
Yeah, SVU. I have to think, like, again, 84 minutes is kind of a strange runtime. Normally these things like bottom out at 90 and it's a comfortable fit still. I have to have a feeling like there's some scenes of her and Speakman where just the chemistry isn't there or something. Like she says nothing. Like obviously she's a good actor, but they got her doing. She opens a door, she closes a door. She walks down the street, she gives a look. She does nothing.
But again, I mean, honestly though, she's pretty, unproven, for lack of a better term, as an actress back then. So much like we kind of discussed before, who you're going to give the heavy lifting to around an unproven actor as your main star in Speakman, you're going to give it to Mako, or you're going to surround him with Tagawa or Mako or Hong. You're going to surround him with guys that can elevate him. And I think The Perfect Weapon does that, well, for lack of a better word, pretty perfectly.
James kills it in this, or James Hong kills it in this shit. Plays
still alive. Still alive. He's probably 92 years old or something like that. Hong, I know, is still around.
That's amazing.
People would more recognize him from stuff like the Kurt Russell one, Big Trouble in Little China. Yep.
And then we got Professor Toru Tanaka.
Yep. R.I.P. Another one died too soon. In fact, he was dead shortly after this movie, I believe.
I think people know him most from The Running Man as Professor Sub-Zero. He's got a fascinating history too, man. Like this dude, he lived several lives.
He's done some big movies though. He was in Missing in Action 2. That was a theatrical release with Chuck Norris. He had a great scene as the Butcher in Dead Heat with Joe Piscopo and Treat Williams. He's done a lot of stuff. But yeah, this was another chance late in his career, or late in his life, actually, it turned, sadly enough, where he got to be on the big screen again in a fairly good role for him.
Yeah. He was a U.S. Army sergeant between 55 and 66. I obviously saw some wartime there. Then he made his way out to San Francisco, and Roy Shire was a local promoter out here, got him to get involved in wrestling, where he would team up with Mr. Fuji, and they would go on to be 3-time WWF Tag Team Champions back in the day. And then he was apparently he grew up with Ed Parker on the island of Hawaii, that is. But yeah, that's what I got here. So, Len, where do we want to start in this film? Do we want to start at the beginning where we meet Joe Sixpack on the construction site?
I think you have to. I think when you talk about the perfect weapon, I think if you could pick the one scene that people remember most in the entire movie, and I think the whole movie's great, don't get me wrong. I think the gym fight scene's amazing. That's what I would remember it most for. But I think if you ask the lay person, hey, you've seen The Perfect Weapon? Yeah, that's the one with the guy doing the kata and I got the power at the beginning of the movie. And I think that's what most people remember The Perfect Weapon for, is the kata music video thing, if you will, at the beginning of the movie. He's on the construction site. They time the intro to the music perfectly as he's walking around, and boom, it gets into him doing his kata shirtless. And Jeff was a good looking guy back then, and yeah, I think that's what most people remember is the beginning of the film.
It's a fun scene, and that song has haunted him throughout the rest of his career. Anytime he made a special appearance, that song has to play with his entrance.
He's got his wrestling entrance music there.
For sure. We meet him on a construction site. We then get to him doing the kata. Snap's I Got the Power is playing for like the 12th or 13th movie of that year. He decides to make a phone call, and he calls his man Kim. And Kim is being shaken down, being strong-armed by a member of what we'll discover to be the Golden Fists Mafia. Mako's got some room.
How did that not end up being a rap group or something like that, or some kind of name? How did that not materialize?
Golden Fists? I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure it's an off-brand of the Wu-Tang Clan.
Right.
Jeff interrupts the shakedown via telephone. The phone gets disconnected, and then he immediately jumps into his car. Is it a 54 Mustang or is it a 58?
No, you're asking the wrong guy. I'm a motorcycle man, dude.
Fair enough. He jumps into his Mustang and he takes off. And look, man, I don't know if you've ever been to Los Angeles, but he's on the 110 South, and that's a long drive. Like, Mako's going to be murdered by the time he gets there. Okay, but he somehow beats LA traffic. It's in the scene itself. He hits that curve. He's just exiting Grapevine. You'll be doing like a solid 65. If you're in California, you'll be doing a solid 85. But all of a sudden, there'll just be traffic waiting for you at that curve. And that's when you're officially in Los Angeles trying to get downtown. And lots of accidents happen there. Anyway, Mako's getting shaken down. And then Jeff comes in and he ends up doing even more damage than what the mafia leaders were doing.
That's a great scene, though.
It is a great scene. Jeff saves the day. Dante Bosco's like, oh man, you just got yourself murdered. And Kim explains some things. On the way to the fight, though, we get the flashback. And again, it's a long drive, so it kind of makes sense. Is this a movie that should have maybe just started with him being a kid, or do we need him to be an adult and then go into the flashback?
Honestly, you can't not, and I can't emphasize this enough, you can't not start the movie with the construction site, shirtless kata in the hotel room thing. Okay. I mean, the movie has to start with that.
Okay.
That scene wouldn't work, in my opinion, to come. I feel it's such an impactful beginning. I mean, everybody remembers it, right? It's such a cool, kick-ass beginning. I don't think you could have had flashbacks of him as a kid and stuff like that. Then fast forward a few scenes into the movie where he's at work at a construction site and then goes and does I Got the Power. I think that has to kick off the movie. I don't think it works if you put the I Got the Power scene anywhere else.
Okay. So it's definitely an editing choice then.
Except maybe the end credits. Maybe if it was not funny, but if the credits were rolling and off to the side, you have him doing the kata thing. Maybe in the end credits thing, something like that would work, but it's not nearly, it packs the punch it does at the beginning of the movie.
Okay. Jeff is going to hang out for a while, but he decides he's going to go on a walk. And then we get to meet Professor Toru Tanaka, also known as Tanaka in this. And he's got a great gimmick where he pulls out a lotus blossom.
Yep.
And stuffs it in his pocket before he makes his murder, and then he leaves it. They don't overuse this at all. There's a lot of really clever shit in this movie, Len, dude.
Yeah,
I really appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, Tanaka, has he ever played a good guy? Really? I mean, it's hard for him to play a good guy. He just doesn't have that look. I mean, even in professional wrestling, I mean, I can't picture him being a face.
No, I think he's a heel.
Basically, you know.
I think he's your professional heel.
Right. And I mean, was Fuji ever that? I don't think so. I don't ever remember Mr. Fuji being a face ever in his career. I'm sure at some point he had to have been, but I don't remember it.
No, nor do I. Nor do I. Unfortunately, Kim is murdered in his bed very violently, but it's done off screen. But we get to see the aftermath. It's pretty ugly. And then Jeff comes in. He calls the cops. Cops start canvassing. And the lead detective there is ready to just close it. He's like, yeah, this is just an assassination. We'll get nothing out of the people here. They don't talk to cops, blah, 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 blah. And young redheaded detective comes in and is like, I want to be on the case. Yeah. Long story short, turns out to be Adam, Jeff's little brother.
And there's some conflict there. Yeah.
It's not only some good conflict, but it's like they haven't seen each other for a long time now. We do find out through the flashbacks that Jeff almost killed a guy on the football field.
Yep.
Do you want to see that scene?
I do not, because I remember it. It's where he does the kick to the face and knocks his the face mask of his football helmet off, I believe.
Mm-hmm. There's a real weird editing point where he jumps up, he does a spin, and at first it looks like he's getting ready to throw a punch in this spin, but then another quick cut, and it turns out to be the kick that removes the faceplate.
The faceplate, yeah. It kind of strange because, again, with Kempo karate, that's not their thing. That was very Van Damme-ish that moment. It was very much a Taekwondo kick and things like that. Kempo karate, I don't even believe has kicks like that. We don't see jumping, flying, reverse kicks and things like that in Kempo, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about that.
Nice. Jeff Speakman, who would be a guest on the Scott Adkins movie podcast, said that the football player in that scene had like a chip on his shoulder. He was being pretty disrespectful. So during practice, Jeff gave him a good one, and then he was very cooperative the rest of the day.
It doesn't take much.
Yeah. A cowboy boot to the football helmet is how that went down, is from what I understand.
And you know what? I think that's it's a running kind of unsaid rule kind of thing, where if you're on set and being a dick, chances are if you're in fight scenes, you're going to take it a little bit from either the other actor or the stuntman. It reminds me, not to get off the rails, but it really reminds me of a scene in Death Race 2000 with the late David Carradine, when he fight Machine Gun Joe Paterbo, played by Sylvester Stallone in a garage scene. I forget what the confrontation in the movie was about, but he said that he had heard that Stallone was tough on his stuntman and stuff like that in that scene. So, of course, David Carradine does some of his own stunts as well. And when he was in the scene, he said he kind of gave it to Stallone a little bit with some stomach punches and stuff, or kind of mad at him for working over his stunt double kind of thing in a few spots. So these things kind of on set have a way of policing themselves kind of thing.
Yeah, it's also incredible just to hear that someone would be that unprofessional, just to throw around attitude like that, where someone has to intervene. Like,
right. You know what, though? I see it on even an indie level sometimes where people think they're bigger than they are kind of thing, or they did a local commercial and now they're this diva and stuff. And if it's one thing that people that would hate working with me, anybody that's a diva or has an attitude like that probably would hate me. And I'm in turn the writer and director of my film. So in turn, you really don't want me to hate you if you do my stuff kind of thing. But I'm a pretty chill guy overall, not that I'm not passionate about it, but yeah, you'd be surprised the attitude. Who knows? This football player in this scene that was given him attitude, who knew? He probably did a local commercial for King Cobra beer or whatever the hell he was doing out there, and then thought he was the next, Mel Gibson or something. So insert actor that you like, Tom Cruise, Mel Gibson, whoever.
Dig it. That would be amazing if he was in a King Cobra commercial.
Martin Cove used to do it from
That's right. Kid. Yeah, he did. I remember those.
Don't let the smooth taste fool you.
I was in a weird position at a weird age where I was like, did I imagine that? Is Kreese selling malt liquor?
Yeah. Martin Cove from John Kreese from Karate Kid, and now is the new generation knows him from Cobra Kai. Yes, he hawks King Cobra malt liquor. Don't let the smooth taste fool you. Look it up.
I think we got our end bumper on that one. Let me see. Through more flashbacks, we find out that Dad has kicked him out of the house.
Yeah.
And we get a real quick scene where he's back at the dojo and he's talking with his teacher. And it's unclear to me if he's being kicked out or if he's quitting.
Yeah, a fairly bigger actor that did a lot of A-list character work plays his dad. I can't think of the actor's name off the top of my head. I can see his face, but I can't think of his name.
That's Bo Starr, Captain Carl Sanders.
Yes, he did a lot of films, lots and lots and lots of films, and a lot of A-list stuff where he was like a side player, much like he is in The Perfect Weapon. So, yeah, I think it's pretty unclear if he's kicking him out or he's frustrated and just leaving. That's not really. I don't know. I don't even want to say it's up for interpretation. I just think it's unclear.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Well, either way, he does leave, and he's pretty cool about it. I guess things were different back in the 70s, man, because he doesn't have a couch to crash on. He never goes, "Hey, Kim, could I sleep on your floor for a couple days?" He's just like, "I'm out. I'll see you next time, buddy." We finally fast forward to the present after all that, and we're going through some mug shots, and there's nothing there. There's just no one matches anything. Professor Tanaka actually does. Jeff gets there in time to see Professor Tanaka drive away, and he chases after him, and that's where we get the fight in the alley. That's where I was leading with. Very fancy stuff, man. There's a lot of spinning back fists, lots of very quick jabs, and he puts everybody down in under 15 seconds?
Pretty quick. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's it's not like Out for Justice with Steven Seagal, which is kind of like a workout film where he just beats the crap out of everybody and doesn't take any offense from anybody himself. Jeff kind of takes some shots here and there. He gets worked a little bit in the gym fight scene and stuff. So it's not a Seagal film where he's just blowing through everybody, the entire movie. He takes some good shots on himself and gets tossed around a little bit. And
in the alley with these 4 untrained muggers, they don't know anything. He drops those guys really quickly.
Correctly. Yes, I think he tosses his wallet at them or something like that and ends up beating the crap out of them.
Yeah, again, lots of clever stuff where he uses a distraction on that. He's a pretty fast puncher, dude. I would say 1991 Speakman could probably go with anyone from the raid in 2009. Would that be too far-fetched to say? I don't know, but
it might be a tiny bit far-fetched only because even back then, I mean, Speakman wasn't like a muscle-bound guy, but he was an in-shape guy. The guys from the raid, he probably weighs 50 or 60 pounds more than those guys do. So there would be some discrepancies there. But hand speed and stuff, I think much like Kempo and much like Aikido, there's a lot of throws, hand speed, back fist, grabs, locks, throws, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think you could go with just about anybody back then. You fast forward again, you would know this for being a boxing fan, or an MMA fan, there's a reason why we have weight classes. You know what I mean? They're not tough man competitions. You know what I mean? You have to have weight classes. It would not be fair to ask somebody from, the raid to take on Speakman and stuff like that, or that kind of thing. So they might have the hand speed, but again, if Speakman really got a hold of him, I would rather take a punch from a 140-pound man than a punch from a 210-pound man. But I put it that way.
That is fair. That is fair. Speaking of weight classes, at some point, Jeff is told, go check out the crock pit. And he walks in and he is immediately given all sorts of unwelcome glares. He also towers everybody by minimum half a foot to a maximum 1.5 feet. He definitely stands out like a sore thumb. But when he finally does engage in combat, FYI, don't watch this scene in HDR. The neon and the strobes, your 4K TV will just be incredibly blurry during the whole thing. So be sure to turn that off if you have that on for this scene. Otherwise, it's a lot of fun. This is where you talked earlier. Jeff gets overpowered. There's just too many people. Finally takes a bottle to the head. Professor Tanaka is about to donkey punch him. And then a stranger in the shadows says, "Stop!" And they just drag him out of the bar, but then it's a weird cut. He's back in the shrine, giving respect to his master Kim, or his friend Kim. We don't get to see him tossed out of the bar. We don't see stay out of the club. Like, there's nothing. He's it's almost like they didn't know how to end the scene.
But you know what? When you say that, though, what that makes me think of is that they did film something like that, and for just pacing purposes, they felt, we can just cut to the next scene. I mean, you can't, even with action movies like this. It's always a pet peeve of mine when filmmakers or the editors, anybody on the production, treat the audience like they're stupid. Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, we know what happens. I mean, we know that obviously they didn't kill him. But I mean, we know he gets thrown out of the bar and stuff like that. Do we need to see him thrown out of the bar with somebody saying, "Stay out, devil white man," or whatever? Do we really need that? I'm not sure we need that. I think the cut is appropriate there. It's almost like the quick time lapse kind of thing. I don't think it's out of place.
It's never brought up again, though. Like, I met some of his friends down at the Croc Pit, or when he's at the shrine,
right,
like holding his face, like, because again, he does take, he's got some shiners or whatnot, but
as a writer, that makes me think maybe the Croc Pit scene might have been written in when a lot of the film was shot. And then they came back and said, we could use another action scene to pace the movie with. What could we do? There's your Croc Pit scene.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's that way. Yes, he is. Yes, yeah. the man with the skullet.
That's a great term. Jeff Speakman breaks his neck, but I don't think he kills him. But he definitely like wrenches that neck hard, and they do the full sound effect of snap. But he kind of moves a little bit afterwards. I don't think that's an accident. I don't know. That's just Al Leong. Blink and you miss him.
Yeah, in that respect too, and I know exactly the scene you're talking about with Al Leong there. It's right. He kind of moves afterwards, so you don't think he's dead, but he's obviously in a bad way there. In that thing too, you don't want to go. I never got the vibe that Speakman's character was going to turn into like a Charles Bronson-esque Death Wish 3 type character. Oh, yay, murder! Get the thumbs up from your little teenage buddy or whatever. I never felt the movie was going to go that direction, kind of thing.
He's pretty good about just incapacitating his opponents.
Correct.
We get to the warehouse, and some people do get MDK'd, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's see. We have the scene in the shrine. You forget
his little sidekick. You forgot that little kid that calls him Dick.
Yes.
Tracy.
Yeah, that's Dante Bosco. He plays Jimmy Ho.
Jimmy Ho.
Dante Bosco is also in Fist of the North Star as Bat.
Oh, I love that movie.
And then he does the voice on the Avatar: The Last Airbender series whenever that was a film.
Wow. So he's still working, or has
he's
worked
still
recently.
Working. Yeah, he's a East Bay native. So shout out to Dante Bosco. So yeah, they hook up. They have some dialogue, but ultimately, at some point, we meet Young, James Hong, and he's playing it real smooth. He's just like, Kim was a friend of mine. I was on my way to meet him, and then
he's in the limo, and
he's smooth talking to him real good. Like he's not giving him too many details. He's like, I can show you where Kai is, and then Kai will tell you where it is. Oh, okay, now Kai told you, Carrie Hiroyuki Tagawa. I can't possibly ask you to do this thing, I don't worry, I'll take care of it. I'm not supposed to take care of it, but I'll take it. And Jeff Speakman is just overpowered. Like, no, I must go on this murder mission now for Kim. Again, clever stuff using the environment. He can't sneak into the building, so he hops on top of an elevator car, which almost crushes him. And then he wiggles his way, finds an open window, and then uses a fire extinguisher just to make the entire room just cloudy.
Yeah, cloudy. Yep.
Again, knocks everybody out, is about to commit murder. And that's when it finds out that Dante Bosco saves the day, says, nope, you were tricked. Young is the one who killed Kim. Everyone knows this, you stupid person.
Plot twist.
The man that he was supposed to kill, Wo Sam. Wo Sam is being really cool about everything. Like, he's also trying to restrain the urge to I should kill this guy on principle, but even makes a comment. It's like, I'm giving you one of my own men, and I'm giving you my blessing to take care of this. This is such a strange deal after you almost tried to kill me in front of my family. So
after that, let's see where the car, blah, blah, blah.
He's like, are you going to kill him? You got to kill him. And Jeff Speakman doesn't say yes.
Right.
He doesn't say no.
We're got to be going towards the final act now of the film. We're into that part. That's where he's on the pier, I think it is, with Professor Tanaka there, and they have their fight scene. Again, he gets some offense against him by Tanaka, who of course is going to bear hug him and stuff like that. So, we get into that final, what you have in most of these action films, you name it, it's going to be that final confrontation showdown kind of thing, where he's not going to fight James Hong, or he's not going to fight, of course he's fighting Tanaka. There's nobody left except for, thug type, stuntman type people to fight. Character wise, there's really only Tanaka.
He has him and Young throw some fists. Also, him and Kai have a thing. But before we even get to any of that, he has to make his way through the warehouse, And there's some dudes that he immediately just knocks out sight unseen. Like, oh, you're in my way. I just got to knock you out. But then there's a scene where he walks around the corner and another warehouse employee sees him. Hasn't seen him be an aggressor at all. He could be just some dude just lost. I'm sure it's high security, whatever. But this man to me is just like, oh yeah, no, I have to take this blunt object in my hand and just commit murder for my probably non-union job. Oh, we also get the pole vault scene, getting over the gate. Again, clever stuff. Yes,
I forgot all about that. But now, yes, the pole vault scene, that is, any amateur filmmaker would know how they shot that. But
please tell us. I don't know.
I believe that's the one where it shows him go up and he's kind of up in the air. I mean, there's no wide shot, essentially, no super wide anyway. So he's up, you cut, it's hit him in the air or whatever. Next cut is he's landing and off he goes, kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Three shots. It's he's actually obviously never pole vaulting over anything. you know what I mean? So,
but again, going back to clever, Jeff Speakman and our man Kurt Russell in Big Trouble in Little China will be jealous of this. Jack Burton will be jealous. Jeff Speakman has a knife in each boot. Okay, and they do a close up of this where it's one's a solid black knife and the other one's a very shiny silver knife. And at first it comes out to be nothing, but then he's thinking like, what do I do with these? And so he takes a shiny knife and just lobs it over the guy with the Uzi, who then goes, oh, there's a thing that just passed over my head, and then immediately hits him with stealth knife.
Yeah.
Again, really clever stuff. And then we finally get to the big confrontation with Tanaka. Tanaka has got a knife in his belt and he's wiling it around.
Yeah. His whip knife thing he's got there. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Speakman gets his hands on it for a second, throws it at Tanaka, who ducks, and it hits a gas valve. Again, going back to super clever, Jeff Speakman grabs just some chain link, gets a spark when he hits the propane tank. Huge explosion. Roll the credits. There's a little more after that, but roll the credits. Like, this is a solid movie, man. Like, everything in this works.
Yeah, it's well shot. I think the cinematography is good. I mean, overall. I think lighting, all the production values you expect from like a major movie or a major budget picture, even for back then, it's all in this movie. I think all the production elements are really good. I mean, you might have some shitty dialogue at times and stuff. Well, yeah, because this is really a B movie. I mean, essentially, it just got the promotion to be on the screen with the A-list stuff. But really, I think this is a B movie at heart, just promoted as an A movie.
This is a $10 million budget. It's Paramount Pictures. It opens up March 15th, 1991. It opens up at number 6. Don't let that be a critique on its performance. It comes in with $3.9 million that weekend. It is Silence of the Lambs, New Jack City, Sleeping with the Enemy, Class Action, and The Hard Way all surpass it that week. It opens up with Class Action, Guilty by Suspicion, and the Richard Grieco spy thriller, If Looks Could Kill. 1991's top 5 movies. Comes in out of 253 movies. This comes in at number 96. It's pretty.
That's not that bad.
Pretty respectable. I'm going to hit that list in a minute. Your top 5 for 91: City Slickers, Silence of the Lambs, Home Alone, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Terminator 2, rounding that out.
Yeah, I would. I don't dislike Silence of the Lambs or anything like that, but I wouldn't say it's a fun watch. So The Perfect Weapon, I'm going to watch over and over and over again. Terminator 2, I would watch over and over and over again, kind of thing. But
91's a really good year for action films, man. Like, we got your Last Boy Scouts, we got your Ricochets, Toy Soldiers. I think that still holds up.
There's so many movies that go through my head at times. If I don't spit them out, I'll forget it. So you mentioned Toy Soldiers and thinking that holds up. Well, my friend, I am going to drop some knowledge on you that I believe this is still on Amazon Prime to watch. It is called Terror Squad with the late Chuck Connors, the rifleman. It is from 1988. The Robert Maris or Richard Maris or something like that directs it. You will not want to miss Terror Squad. I think it's really, really good. And it's got all the elements of Toy Soldiers in it, which was made a few years later. I believe Terror Squad is 1988. Chuck Connors will get listed as the lead actor. He's not in it very much, but he's obviously the main the name of the movie kind of thing. See Terror Squad. I'm telling you, if you think Toy Soldiers holds up, I think Terror Squad does too.
Just like Captain America, it's on the list. Oh man, we had Out for Justice come out the same year. That comes in at number 30. Double Impact, 45. Van Damme's other feature, Lionheart, number 58. And then our movie beats the following: Showdown in Little Tokyo at 160. The original Kickboxer 2 at 178. American Ninja 4 at 204.
I love all those, though. I like all those. American Ninja 4, I think, gets a bad rap. I mean, I like that one.
It's an interesting crossover. I like the fact that Dudikoff and David Bradley are in it.
Yes, they apparently did not like each other.
Really? That's disappointing to hear.
I know.
That's disappointing to hear.
Well, at that point, David Bradley, and I just watched American Ninja 3 maybe 2 weeks ago here. Yeah, at that point, Bradley's still kind of just getting rolling with things. And he went on to some more slicker produced things too, American Samurai and stuff like that. It's with Mark Dacascos. I think that's how you say his last name, Dacascos. I don't want to say it wrong, but you know who I'm talking about.
I do.
American Samurai gets his career going and stuff. But at that point, though, Dudikoff was kind of leaving the American Ninja series, as he wasn't in part 3 because he was getting bigger. He had done a theatrical release that did not do well called River of Death. That kind of, so he looked like he was going to go on to bigger and better things. And then lo and behold, a few years later, he's in American Ninja 4. So
got to go back to the roots, just like Rocky. My man, this was a fantastic movie. Like, I was afraid this was going to be like with Blood Fist 3, was like, yeah, I saw this on the movie channel in 1992, but it didn't work. No, this was better than I remember it being. I'm very glad you brought this to our attention. Do you have anything else to say about it?
I really think anybody that's listening to this show or that likes martial art films, I think you can really, it's good to know roots of things, and in martial art action and evolution of action pictures, and obviously martial art pictures through the years. I think The Perfect Weapon has a big place in martial art film lore kind of thing. When you go to 70s, everybody would think obviously Kung Fu, the TV show, and then of course Enter the Dragon and things like that. But you get into the 80s, you get some Norris films, but man, some of the Norris stuff for Kim really weren't karate pictures kind of thing. Is Invasion USA a martial art film? I don't even know if there's a fight scene in Invasion USA. You know what I mean? So I think, obviously we get into the late 80s, we have Kickboxer in those films and things, but I think each of them has their place as being slickly produced martial art films. Like I said, I feel at the heart of The Perfect Weapon, it's a B movie, but yet, $10 million in 1991 wasn't a B movie. You were trying to go for it with that kind of budget even back then. I mean, today, $10 million, you're going direct to home video or direct to video on demand and those kinds of things. So I really think the uniqueness of The Perfect Weapon and all the production values that went into it. Mark DeSalle, is that the director? How you say his last name?
DeSalle, I want to say.
DeSalle, yeah. And that's a shame too, because he did 2 pretty good martial art movies and then kind of drops off the face of the earth in terms of directing martial art films. So, I feel it was that way with a director called Kurt Anderson, who never got that A-list platform, but yet did some really, really quality B-movie martial art movies like Mission of Justice, Martial Law 2 Undercover with Cynthia Rothrock and Jeff Wincott. Did some good things, and I see some parallels there. But really, I can't say enough that, everybody should learn martial art films by the decade kind of thing, I think. And through the 90s, I think you can learn a lot that way, because you see not only the change in times and stuff, but the change in production values, how fight scenes are choreographed, how they're done, the differences throughout time as we go. In the 80s martial art picture, I think like Bloodsport or something like that is very different from something like The Perfect Weapon as we're going into the 90s then. And I don't just mean music and score and things, but I think it's definitely worth checking out. If we go through the 90s and I had to pick my top 5 martial art films, which I probably couldn't generate right off the top of my head, but I would definitely say The Perfect Weapon has to be in the top 5 martial art movies of the 90s.
You brought up 2 things. So apparently Mark DeSalle's reputation after this movie becomes very questionable, per that Scott Adkins podcast with Jeff Speakman. He didn't really get into too many details, probably didn't know so many details. However, whatever DeSalle's actions were, they cost Jeff Speakman the opportunity to be in Speed as the Keanu Reeves character. They were polishing the script to be for Jeff Speakman, and then something happened. He gets into it more. I didn't really quite understand it. My man, this is dropping June 30th. What would you like to plug?
Yeah, hopefully in a couple of months here, I'm going to start filming Pact of Vengeance, where I rounded up Leo Fong from Low Glow and Kill Point. I rounded up John Mickle Thor, heavy metal god. His music's amazing, but he was also known for the acting role in Rock and Roll Nightmare, one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. It might be my favorite soundtrack of all time, and I'm talking I like it better than The Crow and all that stuff. I'm an 80s metalhead, man, so I want the heavy metal. So, and also, I've got Priscilla Zuniga, known more as wrestler Diamante, female tag team champion for AEW wrestling. So cool. I got my troop in here to get Pact of Vengeance rolling, and hopefully we're starting in less than a couple of months now. So yeah, going forward, I just released Blood Prism in a director's cut. It's not a martial art movie by any means, but it's probably my most different or most ambitiously different story and things like that. So I really like it. I worked on the edit cut personally myself on this one, put in some more elements in the movie. I think really flesh it out a tiny bit better than what it was. And that just got released earlier this month on my Patreon. So everybody, hopefully you'll check it out at patreon.com/KillerWolfFilms.
You get a lot for your money on that Patreon page too, guys. I'm telling you, the hundreds of podcasts, the entire Len Kabaczynski catalog. It's what you want. Go do that. As of me, I do a bunch of things here. I'm going to say, listen to the Microdose. We drop those once a week, every Friday. Me, co-host Robin Seto. We have the Robin Seto cameo party. We bring in a guest. It's a lot of good times. You should check it out. I mentioned earlier, Fist of the North Star. Go check out Kush and Kai, whatever number that was. We break down Gary Daniels' Fist of the North Star.
Yeah, that's great.
It is a fun conversation. It's an interesting movie. I think you guys would like both. And, well, I've been Kush Hayes, and you've been Len Kabaczynski. Everybody else has been you. And thanks, y'all.
Thanks for having me.
We're here to kick ass. If you with the Kung Fu, then this your podcast. No breaks, all gas. This the kick-ass movie podcast. We're here to kick ass. If you with the Kung Fu, then this your podcast. No breaks, all gas. This the kick-ass movie podcast.
From the BosNet family.
King Cobra malt liquor. Don't let the smooth taste fool you. Look it up.